the issuing of a warrant of arrest for the Secretary-General of the ANC, Ace Magashule. DA member of the Free State Provincial Legislature, Leona Kleynhans, has pursued the case against Magashule since 2015. It culminated in the laying of charges against the ANC Secretary-General in May this year, which has now ensured that Magashule faces the music for some of the allegations against him. Kleynhans joins us. Good evening, Leona. Thank you so much for your time. Firstly, maybe just initial reaction to the issuing of this warrant of arrest. You've long maintained that there are things that Ace Magashule needs to answer to, especially that took place under his tenure as Premier of the Free State.
Yes, Cathy, we are very pleased with the developments with the issuing of the arrest warrant. It's been a very long time coming. In this particular case, we started in 2015 by going to court in July of that year. We were not successful to get an urgent interdict to stop payments. However, we then took the matter to the Public Protector. And only in May this year did the Public Protector release her report, in which she found that there were gross irregularities, maladministration, and basically our concerns she found were quite valid. So it was as a response to the Public Protector's report that I then lodged charges against former MEC Oli Mlamleli and against former Premier Ace Magashule with the Hawks in Bloemfontein. This relates to the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act, in which it says that if you in a position of authority and you are aware of criminal activity taking place, that you must act to report it or to stop it. If not, you are equally guilty.
Leona, let's perhaps go back to 2015 when you started with this matter. What was it that raised eyebrows, especially to you, around what had been taking place in relation to these contracts, and most importantly, how it linked back to the former Premier?
Well, initially, looking at the documentation which we obtained, the contracts and invoices and all that sort of thing, it was quite clear that this whole thing really didn't make sense. The amount of 255 million in terms of this contract was to be paid out to identify, only to identify houses with asbestos roofs. The 255 million did not include replacing the roofs. It was only to go and do a survey to find the asbestos roofs. So eventually, there were 36,000 asbestos roofs in the Free State were identified by one of the subcontractors in this contract. And a recent question to the legislature in which I asked how many of those roofs have now finally been replaced. And the number is only 3,500. So now suddenly there is no urgency to really replace the asbestos roofs. So yes, Ace Magashule, the reason why I laid charges with the Hawks against Oli Mlamleli and Ace Magashule was related to our case in July 2015, where I said that the MEC was the second respondent in our court case. Even if she had been completely innocent up to that point, and she had to go and sit in the court and hear discussions around this illegal or allegedly illegal contract, surely she would have then investigated and decided herself to order that the payments be stopped or to report that this was a criminal matter or something. But she did absolutely nothing. Likewise, the Premier, Ace Magashule, the legal advisor, sits in the Premier's office. The legal advisor was the one who had to lodge or launch a legal defense for the MEC in our court action. So it's almost impossible that the Premier sat in the office with a legal advisor and didn't know anything about our allegations that this case was illegal. That is why I went to the Hawks and laid charges specifically against those two for their failure to act when they should have known that this contract was illegal.
Of course, part of what it does is that it raises the bar, at least where accountability is concerned, for public servants who perform oversight duties, especially in such senior roles over provinces. Do you think that this case is likely to set a precedent just on the issue of the role that officials need to be playing when they are made aware of irregularities, of corruption that is well taking place under their nose?
Yes, indeed, it is true, because what we often see is that the officials get thrown under the bus. They have to carry the can, and they are the ones that have to be suspended and dragged into court and so on. The politicians get off scot-free. But this legislation is actually aimed at ensuring that all those who also know what is happening, they are compelled to act. And they cannot just turn a blind eye and pretend to be deaf and pretend to not know anything that's going on around them. It doesn't work like that. In a position of authority, you have a duty to act when you know that wrong things are taking place. So I do hope that this does set a precedent and that others will be emboldened to use this legislation, and that others will be warned that they need to act when they know wrong things are taking place.
Leona, there are those who are less generous in their analyses of what transpired in the Free State over some of these contracts, who in fact say that projects such as the Asbestos roof project were implemented just as a way of making money that would benefit specific groupings, specific business groupings, and effectively the accusation is that there are some form of kickbacks that link their way back to the then Premier of the Free State, Ace Magashule. What do you have to say about that? Do you know about what is on record? And I'm talking here about documents that you as a member of the provincial legislature would have had access to that would directly implicate the Premier.
Yes, there are other cases that have been lodged against the Premier. As I say, I am not privy to exactly what the National Prosecuting Authority intends to do with those charges and if there is enough evidence, etc., etc. But I do believe that other cases will be added to the charges against Ace Magashule, or different cases altogether. But this certainly is not the only case in which it is very clear that the entire project was conceived and implemented with the intention to get funds out of state coffers and into the pockets of individuals, cronies, who knows. Others have done a lot of investigation into where that money actually went. This is not the purpose of my investigation and the actions that I have taken. My purpose is to protect and to get justice for the people of the Free State, who have enormous challenges and who have really suffered enormously under this mismanagement of the province for the past 26 years.
Has anything changed since Ace Magashule finished his tenure as Premier of the Free State?
No, not much has changed really. We continue, the corruption continues, the illegal contracts continue. Possibly, I think the only difference that I see would be that maybe the people in the Free State are less afraid to speak. Maybe they are slightly emboldened with Ace Magashule being slightly removed from the province, and that they feel freer to actually speak about what went on here.
Leona Kleynhans, thank you so much for your time. She's a DA member of the provincial legislature there, and of course has been pursuing this case for 5 years now. And you heard the perspective at which she has asked the courts to look into this matter.